Okay, so there's a huge shift happening in our schools right now. A shift that could literally take learning off the flat pages of a textbook and drop students directly into worlds we've only ever dreamed of. We're talking about the rise of the virtual classroom. And today we're going to explore its incredible promise. And, yeah, its potential peril.
And what you're seeing right here, this isn't some sci-fi movie anymore. Immersive technologies like virtual and augmented reality, VR and AR, they're moving out of the gaming world and right into our schools. And they're promising to completely change how students learn, how they interact, and how they discover.
And this quote from Einstein, it really just hits the nail on the head. See, the real promise of this tech isn't just about cramming knowledge into students' heads more efficiently. It's about unlocking their imagination, letting them experience their education in a way that just was not possible before.
All right, so first up, let's dive into the incredible potential here. How exactly does putting a student in a virtual world lead to better outcomes in the real one? Well, as we're about to see, the results are kind of stunning.
And look, we're not just talking about theories. Around the world, schools are actually putting this technology to the test, and they are seeing some really dramatic results. The data shows it has a profound impact on student success, especially when you're talking about retaining complex, abstract information.
Get this. A study of schools in El Salvador found that students using VR saw their knowledge retention jump by over 35%. And the control group, the ones who didn't use VR, their scores went up by less than 3%. By letting students actually interact with concepts and blocking out all those classroom distractions, the information just sticks.
And we're seeing this pop up in incredible ways right now. Morehouse College, they built a digital twin of their entire campus. At Arizona State, students are learning biology in a virtual zoo and getting grades 15% higher. Other colleges are using it for everything from emergency response training to practicing complex healthcare procedures in a safe, simulated space.
So this all sounds pretty amazing, right? A total game changer. But, and this is a big but, with all this power comes some pretty serious risks. We have to ask the tough question. As some students get to leap into these amazing new worlds, are other students getting left further and further behind?
And that brings us to the other side of the coin, the perils. The path to the virtual classroom is, well, it's filled with some serious challenges that kind of fall into three big buckets: access, safety, and adoption.
The core of the access problem is pretty simple. Not all institutions are created equal, not even close. As you can see here, on one side, you've got these well-endowed universities like ASU, with huge corporate partners helping build out their labs. And on the other, you've got systematically underfunded schools that are facing massive hardware costs and often don't even have the staff to apply for the grants that could help them.
And this isn't a small concern. You have major organizations like the World Economic Forum sounding the alarm. They're warning that if we don't focus on equity, these immersive technologies could actually make the divides we already have in society even worse.
Okay, on to peril number 2, safety. Every time a student puts on a headset and enters a virtual world, they leave a digital footprint. Now, in the US, we have federal laws like FERPA that are supposed to protect student privacy. But here's the thing. These regulations were written long before the metaverse was even a concept, and they are really struggling to keep up.
And the risks are significant. We're talking about safeguarding sensitive student data from getting hacked, preventing random people from just walking into a virtual classroom, and protecting students from harassment and cyberbullying. And on top of all that, there's this huge, messy question: who actually owns all the data and the stuff that gets created in these virtual spaces?
So even if you could wave a magic wand and solve all the money and security problems, you'd still be facing what might be the biggest hurdle of all, the human element. For this whole revolution to actually work, you need the teachers, the people on the front lines, to be fully on board.
And that's a real challenge. I mean, many faculty are already completely overburdened. They worry about investing all this time and energy into what might just be another tech fad, like Second Life was back in the day. And critically, there's often just no time or money for the training they need to actually use these new tools effectively.
So, the challenges are clear. They're big, but they're not impossible. So let's talk about the blueprint. How do we build a safe, an equitable, and an effective virtual future for our students?
Building a safe environment really requires a multi-layered approach. It starts with the technology itself, things like secure logins and data encryption. Then you need clear policies for how students are expected to behave. And finally, and this is absolutely essential, you have to have strong educator training so that teachers feel confident and ready to lead in this new space.
And this is so important. It's not just about having the technology, it's about how you use it. The best programs use VR to really challenge a student's perspective or to let them practice real-world skills in a realistic setting, like a future surgeon who gets to practice a complex procedure over and over before ever stepping into an operating room.
At the end of the day, no school can do this alone. Success is going to depend on building strong partnerships with trusted edtech companies, partners who really get the unique challenges of education and who make security and privacy their absolute top priority.
So, we are left with this final, crucial question. The technology to build the next generation of education, it's already here. The only question that remains is whether we're going to build it for everyone or just for the few. The choice is ours.